Hello.
Hi.
I still can't remember the story that I was going to start out with. Ugh. Don't touch me. I love how we've been friends for like almost 13 years and we still get the ick when we touch each other. Like every time our hands brush against each other when walking, we're like, ew. Ow,
Are you trying to hold my hand? Why?
You're bunnies.
No. This.
Oh, I was cleaning the table and then I never picked them up.
They're bunnies, stupid.
It's almost Easter, there's bunnies. That's what I was gonna say.
Turn around, fast. Ooh. Ow.
What was that?
My hip. I'm old.
We're only 25.
That's old.
So, I've had some weird activity going on in my house lately. I don't know how, I haven't summoned anything, but the other night, it was about 2 weeks ago.
The other night, 2 weeks ago.
It was 9 o'clock at night and Jordan was dropping me off. I opened my garage door because that's how I go in my house, and Jordan was like, why is your mom outside? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, your mom's standing in the garage. And I was like, it is 9 o'clock at night. She goes to bed at 6. There's no way she is standing out in the garage right now. And I look and there's no one there, and he was like, I just saw a shadow like walk in front of your car and disappear. And I was like, you're gonna freak me out, and then you're like, I'm gonna make you walk me to my door if you keep scaring me. He gets out and he walks me up to the door, and we're like looking, and he was like, okay, like there's no one in here. And I was like, maybe you're imagining things. And he starts walking out, and I start walking to the door, like to go inside the house, and the doorknob aggressively jiggles. And I was like, I turned around and I was like, Jordan! And he was like, what? And I was like, the doorknob is jiggling. And he was like, I don't know what to tell you. And he just kept walking away. And later that night he was like, well, maybe it was your parents like walking by the door and it just jiggled the doorknob. But when I walked inside, everybody was sleeping. And I don't know what it was. And then my closet door has been like opening and closing in the middle of the night. I don't know. How does that make you feel?
Fine in the daytime.
Fun fact, we have been friends for like 13 years and you've only stayed the night here once on purpose. There was that accidental time where you were here till like what, 2 in the morning?
Yeah.
Because my dad was gonna take her home and then he fell asleep, and I was like, why are you still here?
Why are you here?
Today is a new serial killer monthly video, and today we're talking about
Joe Metheny.
Yeah, and he's an interesting character. If you are sensitive to things as rape and drugs and violence and murdering, I would strongly suggest you to watch with viewer discretion, and if you can't handle it, please go find a different video. I need to stop touching you. I don't like it.
Need.
You got the ick.
Did you get my joke?
No.
Need.
Go home.
You're my driver. How am I going to go home?
So the early life of Joe Metheny. He was born as Joseph Roy Metheny on March 2nd, 1955.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
That he's a Pisces.
So are you.
Oi.
His mother was Jean Metheny. He was born in Baltimore, Maryland. That is how I say Maryland, okay? I'm so used to saying Maryland. I know it's Maryland, but I just say Maryland. I don't know why. And not much is known about his parents. What the hell are you doing?
I was having technical difficulties.
Your whole life is a technical difficulty. And the only thing we really know about his dad is that he was an alcoholic and got into a car wreck and died when Joe was 6. And we couldn't find his name. We literally couldn't find anything about him, didn't know his age. The information on this man was so hard to find, so if any of it is slightly off or anything, I don't know what to tell you. There were like different websites that said different that said different things. So we have both of those, and it's just like comparing, and you know, it's you decide for yourself what you want to think, because there's a bunch of different stories out there.
They all contradict each other for some reason.
And then one thing that he did a lot was contradict his mother. Like, it was really a he said, she said kind of deal. And he was one of 6 children, so he had 5 other siblings, don't know their names, don't know their ages, know nothing about them. And he grew up in Essex, Maryland, and he claims that he was neglected as a child, and it led to him being a depressed child, and all through his teenage years that he was just super depressed. His mom had to work multiple jobs as a waitress, barmaid, and food truck driver. She claimed that she still gave her children a normal life and they never went hungry. And he claimed that his parents often sent him to live with other families, like a foster care situation. But his mom said that they never did that, and that they never did that to any of their kids. And with that, I think I would believe her more, because he said in court that his parents, but if his dad died at the age of 6, then shouldn't he have just said his mom? Like, that was my thought process, was that he was like not telling the truth. She said that they were somewhat poor, but she was still able to give them a relatively normal childhood. Like, they still had clothes on their back, things that they needed, even though he claimed that they were hopping from like one homeless shelter to another at points in their lives. She said that never happened. His mother said that he was an above average student and he was always polite and never mean. She said he was smart and had a good childhood. If he was neglected, it was his own fault. It was a pretty good home. In 1973, when Joe turned 18, he went and joined the U.S. Army. Yeah, the United States Army. He said he served a tour in Vietnam and became addicted to heroin while in the artillery unit there. And his mom contradicted that and said that he actually served in Germany. And she had absolutely no recollection of him serving in Vietnam. If you like Google the dates and stuff, the American involvement in Vietnam had actually ended by that time. They think that the drugs like altered his mental state and he actually thought he was in Vietnam, but in reality he was in Germany. He rarely contacted his mom once he left for the army. She said he just kept drifting further and further away. I think the worst thing that ever happened to him was drugs. It's a sad, sad story.
So Joe's adult and working life. In the 1990s, he was known as Tiny. He was 6'1" and really overweight. When he got back from serving, he was really consumed with drugs and lost all contact with his family. He was living in South Baltimore. He lived on the streets with a small community of other homeless people in little makeshift camps. His drug abuse and his bad temper were well known amongst his community. He spent a lot of his time in bars and spent most of his money on his drug addiction. Crack, cocaine, heroin, and liquor is mostly what he spent his money on. Professionally, he was considered well-mannered, smart, and dependable. He had a steady job as a blue-collar worker. He was a truck driver and a forklift driver, and he worked in a lumber yard. His co-workers said that he was intelligent. Joe ended up falling in love with a woman and married her, and they had a child together, and some say he never married and never had a child. And this has never been confirmed or denied or, like, nobody knows. His wife, supposed wife, was also a drug addict, and he bought a trailer for him and his family to live in. And one night, Joe came home from work and his entire trailer was empty. No, like, all of his furniture and his belongings were gone. His wife and his 6-year-old were also gone, and they had left him.
We are Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck.
We're a couple of Canadian chicks who are fascinated by freaky shit. So join us as we fall down numerous rabbit holes.
Numerous, so very many rabbit holes. Fortune telling.
Yeah.
And this is episode 68. What
Yeah, it
lurks
is.
in the woods?
We're doing some axe crimes, axe murders, people hacked up. Yeah.
But yeah, we are doing high kill counts.
Yeah, the most killerist serial killers around.
Ah, the killiest of the killy. We are doing abandoned places. We talk true crime, cryptids, haunted AF stuff, and much, much more.
There are definitely some movie tangents in there too, because we love our horror movie chat.
Yes, we do. So feel free to follow us on social media at Castles and Cryptids, and don't forget to keep it cryptic, eh?
Yeah.
One thing I want to say is that he is almost not completely different, but you can see like the differences. Like with Eileen and Ted, they grew up having like a shit childhood, and then with him, who knows if he did or not. His mom says that like he was like happy growing up and he was very smart and intelligent like Ted, but then it's like the drugs like drove him to do it. Like the drugs made him just not give a fuck. I feel like if he was never on drugs, he probably wouldn't have just started killing people and doing the horrible things that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, they just made him absolutely nuts.
And now this part in his life is where he really started to go off the deep end.
I thought I silenced my phone.
6 months go by and there is still no sign of his wife or his kid that he may or may not have even had. We don't know for sure. Joe's drug dealer comes to him and tells him that his wife moved to the other side of the city and was living with another man, and she was still on drugs. And he was also told that his child had got taken away because of abuse and neglect. Never confirmed, never denied, we don't know. And at this point, after he heard that, he started searching for her, and he was going to the other side of the city, like looking high and low for her. And one night he goes down to a bridge to look for her, and he found two homeless men. He asks them if they have seen his wife, and they say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry that you can't find her. Like, they weren't being mean to him in any way. With Joe being on drugs, he got very angry with them. He believed that they were 100% lying to him and convinced himself that these men have drugged his wife and slept with her. He was just delusional at this point. He leaves, gets an axe, comes back, and murders both of them. But then there was another account from another website that said there was a fight between two homeless groups and he wasn't looking for his wife. And the fact that there was a fight between homeless groups, he was so filled with rage that he just took an axe and murdered two of the other homeless people. Just violently murdered them and threw them in the river. And that's never been confirmed or denied. But their names were Randall Brewer and Randy Piker. They for sure were murdered by him with an axe because the police later found the axe, but we just don't know how exactly it went down, if he was looking for his wife or if there was just a homeless rival fight that night.
There's also another like random one that I saw where they said that there was like a fisherman nearby that saw it happen, and so then he went and killed the fisherman, but I only saw it like one time and it was never brought up anywhere else, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
And it was believed to be at the Hanover Street Bridge. So that is the location, but... And then after that, Joe finds a sex worker and offered her drugs and then lured her under the bridge. He asked again, have you seen my wife? Have you seen my kid? And she said no, but he didn't want to take no for an answer, and obviously that made him violently angry again. And so he beat her and then murdered her. There was right here, the fisherman. There was allegedly a fisherman nearby who witnessed this and was also murdered and thrown into the water. But that was never, confirmed or anything. And once he realized what he did, he picked up the bodies and threw them in the river to hide the evidence. Which is why later at his trial, he kept saying, I threw them in the river, you're never gonna find them. And he quite possibly could have, but there was never any body recovered to know for sure, and that's why we also don't really know the names. But we know the names of the two people because their bodies were, DNA was on the axe. In 1995, he was arrested by police and tried for the murder of 2 men under the bridge. He spent a year and a half in the county jail awaiting his trial. He was acquitted of any charges because investigators couldn't find the bodies. In July 1996, he was released. Bad idea. He carried on looking for his wife and kid. He never gave up. And I did find that her name was possibly Kimberly. Don't know for sure, but I did read in a news article from Baltimore that his wife's name was Kimberly, but then I saw, like, you know, other websites saying that he was never married, never had a kid, never had a girlfriend named Kimberly, nothing like that, so it's all really confusing. In mid-November 1996, he murdered Kimberly Lynn Spicer by stabbing her with a knife and murdered another sex worker along with that. We don't know her name. And then this Kimberly Lynn Spicer could possibly have been his wife. Don't know for sure. There could have also been 2 Kimberlys. Who knows? They failed to give him any information about his missing wife. Don't know that for sure. He brought the bodies home, stored parts of them in his freezer, and buried the rest in a truck lot that was owned by the pallet company that he worked for.
What?
I'm just processing the information. That's disgusting. Like, just imagine, like, you're a business owner and one of your employees is a serial killer and you don't know, and then they go and hide bodies on your business property.
Whoops.
Over the next several weeks, he mixed the women's flesh with beef and pork and formed it into patties. He sold the meat patties out of a small barbecue stand that he opened on the side of the road. Whenever he needed more special meat, he would venture out and find other sex workers and homeless people.
And another thing that I saw is that he said that when he tried the human meat, it tasted so close to pork, he didn't think that anybody would be able to notice. So he would mix it. It was just like small amounts mixed with the beef and the pork. But it's still disgusting. And just poor random people just wanting some lunch were consuming human and they didn't know it.
Do you want to hear a not so fun serial killer fact?
Joy.
You are considered a serial killer if you murder more than 3 people. So that's what defines you as a serial killer. I have not murdered a single person.
Me neither.
I'm glad.
Hey Tim!
Hey Jim!
You want to hear a not so fun serial killer fact?
I do!
Next to California, Texas follows with the highest number of serial killer murders with at least 893.
I'm not moving there.
Me neither.
Okay.
Or California, apparently.
I don't really like the state I live in right now, though.
Boy. Getting caught in the trial. On December 8th, 1996, he kidnapped a woman named Rita Kemper and tried to rape her. Joe and Rita were friends and shared drugs. She would come to his trailer and hang out. Rita refused to have sex with him and ran out of his trailer. He chased her down and started beating her and then dragged her back inside. He pulled her pants down and tried to rape her, and she claims that he also tried to kill her. He said to her, "I'm gonna kill you and bury you in the woods like the other girls." She escaped through a trailer window and went to the police. After that, Joe asked one of his friends to help hide the body of Kimberly that was buried in the factory. The body had been buried there for a month at the time, and his friend went to the police as well. He was arrested on December 15th, 1996. The owner of the factory was also arrested and charged with being an accessory for allegedly disposing of evidence. Unknown if these charges were ever dropped, because we can't ever find information for this story. It was ridiculous.
And for, like, being a serial killer, like, you would think that there would be more information, but it's like...
Why was I sitting like a cooked shrimp? I was like...
I don't know. I'm doing the same thing. I'm slouched over as fuck.
Joe started confessing while he was being interrogated, and he gave great details about each murder, even mentioning the murder of the fisherman from years before. He took the police to the spot where he buried one of his victims and showed them the decapitated remains. Most of the skull was missing, and the police were able to identify the woman by dental records. 39-year-old Kathy Ann Magaziner, according to his confession, he killed 10 people, and the authorities say there's no reason to believe that he would have stopped if he wouldn't have been captured. During his trial, he claimed to have murdered 3 other prostitutes along Washington Boulevard in Baltimore, but there was no other evidence other than his confession. In his confession, he said that he threw the bodies in the Patapsco River so nobody could find them. A website called The Investigation Discovery said Joe Metheny confessed to an array of transgressions that included eating and grinding up his victims' body parts, which he would then mix with pork and beef that he served to his customers at his roadside open pit barbecue stand.
Just imagine driving down the side of the road and you see that and you're like, oh, I'm kind of hungry, I could get a bite to eat, and then you're eating human flesh. I would throw up.
Because like food stands are usually so good, and then you're like, oh, barbecue? Like that sounds so good. And then like you probably wouldn't even know about it until you saw this on the news. And then like...
Just imagine someone's reaction if they ate food from there and they saw that on the news. And now I don't think I'll ever trust a food truck again.
Gross. On trial, he said, I cut up the meat and put some of it in Tupperware bowls and put it in the freezer. I opened up a little open pit beef stand. I had real roast beef and pork sandwiches. They were very good. The human body taste was very similar to pork, and if you mixed it together, no one would be able to tell the difference. So next time you're riding down the road and you happen to see an open pit beef stand that you've never seen before, make sure you think about this story before you take a bite of the sandwich. He also said the words, I'm sorry, will never come, for they would be a lie. I am more than willing to give up my life for what I have done, to have God judge me and send me to hell for eternity. I just enjoyed it. The only thing I feel bad about in any of this is that I didn't get to murder the 2 motherfuckers that I was really after, and that's my ex-old lady and the bastard she hooked up with. His attorney said that he was remorseful and that the drugs and alcohol had changed his personality and made him violent.
So I don't know if I believe his attorney, because in his statements, he isn't acting remorseful, and he's like, the words I'm sorry are never coming out of my mouth, but then his attorney is like, well, he is really remorseful for what he did, and this guy is like, I don't give a fuck if you kill me, like, I'm just pissed, and I don't know why that started coming out like that.
I don't care if you kill me, I'm pissed.
I feel like the drugs and the alcohol did have a massive influence in everything that he did, because I don't think any sane person would make some flesh and pork patties and then eat them. Like, because he was eating them too. Do you want to see more of this? Straw.
Right in the eye.
Or this, but on my Sims.
No.
But not this.
You're not gonna get naked. It is not an OnlyFans.
I would love to see you over at Patreon. We have a Patreon account that the link is in the description. You can go to it and subscribe and see all of this bonus content, Q&As, lives, bonus pictures, bonus footage, blooper reels, death.
My back.
All of that and more. So if you want to get to know us on more of a personal level, I don't know why you would, because we're kind of chaotic, but starting at $3 a month, you can come and support us. The support helps us with things like buying new equipment, going out and making more content for you guys. So the support is very much appreciated, and I thank all of you who have or are going to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you over there.
Yeah.
Brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Now to the final part, the sentencing. In 1998, he was found guilty of murdering Kimberly, and he was sentenced to 50 years. I don't think that's enough. At his sentencing hearing, he said he committed the murders because he enjoyed it and got a rush out of it, like getting high. Later in 1998, he pleaded guilty to murdering Magaziner, and he was sentenced to life in prison. That's deserved. In 2000, a judge overturned the sentence and changed it to 2 consecutive life sentences. And then on August 5th, 2017, he was found dead in his cell. He was at the Western Correctional Institution in Cumberland, and they pronounced him dead at about 3 p.m. and he was 62 years old.
And in some websites it said that he died of natural causes, and on some websites it said they never released the reason that he died, or they never made it public, and
yeah, and then some said that like he committed suicide. There's a lot of different speculations going on, and I don't think we will ever truly know, and maybe it's best if we don't know. Okay, so the next serial killer that we're doing next month, you can guess, and if you're right, we'll be happy with you, and if you don't get it right, well, better luck next time. This person killed these victims in a span of 4 years.
And he had more than, and they had, should I say he?
He.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we were doing gender. And he had more than 5 victims. Is that what you told me to say?
Yes. So, a like and comment, subscribe if you liked this.
Just touched you.
We need to stop touching each other. This is getting weird. It's getting funky up in here.
It's about to get funky. No.
My toes just
Knock
popped.
it off. Knock it off.
And we will see you in the next video.